Welcome to Mr. Mutlow's Topic in 10 Minutes. This video focuses on the socio-cultural element of the course, and in particular, attention turns to the ethnic sports and games topic. This is a relatively small topic area, but it is important that you pay due attention to it, as there are easy marks available if it appears in the examination. The first important thing to remember are some examples of ethnic sports and games. There are many potential examples, and for the purposes of this video, I will provide you with 3. The first example is the Highland Games, a multi-sports event which takes place in the Highlands of Scotland on an annual basis. A second example would be Ashbourne or Shrovetide football, which occurs in a small town in Derbyshire called Ashbourne on an annual basis. This is essentially a game of mob football with limited rules. Similar games of football occur in other towns and cities across the country, but Ashbourne football is one example. The third example I'm going to use is cheese rolling, which takes place at Cooper's Hill in Gloucestershire, again on an annual basis. Essentially, this event involves competitors chasing a large wheel of cheese down a hill in an attempt to win said wheel as their prize. As you can imagine, the steep nature of the hill and the speed at which the cheese rolls makes this a highly dangerous event. That said, it also makes it a highly entertaining spectacle. In addition to identifying a variety of ethnic sports and games, it is important to consider why such bizarre and unique events continue to exist in modern society. This is essentially the key information which you may require for an exam question. In order to try and answer these questions, I am going to use one other example of an ethnic sport. I will try to address the question of how these games continue to survive in the context of the Haxey Hood game. In order to understand why games like the Haxey Hood continue to survive, we need to first understand the characteristics of ethnic sports and games. If we are able to do this, we can put these into context in order to answer a question. It is not essential in the exam for you to be able to apply these characteristics to one specific ethnic sport and game. However, it is important that you can recall the characteristics should an exam question ask you to do so. It is also important in this context that you can name some ethnic sports and games. For the purposes of this video, however, and to ensure that revision is structured and applied, I will try to put these into context in relation to the Haxey Hood. Let's begin with the first characteristic. Ethnic sports and games can be said to have 8 distinct characteristics. The first of which is that they are traditional. This means that they follow historical trends and reflect things that have always happened in a town or a village. In the context of the Haxey Hood game, the game is based on the search for Lady de Mowbray's hood, which took place just outside the village of Haxey over 700 years ago in the 14th century. It would therefore be fair to surmise that the Haxey Hood game continues to survive because it follows tradition and history of the local area. This encourages local people to want to continue these traditions and celebrate the past. The second characteristic of ethnic sports and games is that they are rowdy. In simple terms, this means that they are loud and boisterous affairs which are often based around pubs or other such establishments. In the context of the Haxie Hood, the aim of the game is to move the leather sheath, which you can see in the photos, around the villages until you reach one of 4 traditional pubs: the Carpenter's Arms, the Duke William Hotel, the Loco, or the King's Arms. The game finishes when the sheath reaches one of these establishments, and the traditional finish to the game is for all participants to drink long into the night in the pub which the sheath has reached. Obviously, this leads to rowdy and boisterous behaviour and makes one of the characteristics rowdy. In the context of survival, this rowdiness ensures people return each year because they enjoy the spectacle. A third characteristic which helps to explain the continued survival of ethnic games is the fact that they are isolated and take place in rural communities. This means they generate a sense of community spirit and local togetherness which would not necessarily exist in a major city. That being so, people continue to turn up year after year to participate in order to celebrate the isolated nature of the game and the local community in which they exist. This leads us on nicely to our fourth characteristic: local. Ethnic sports and games tend to be local and occur in one specific area. In the case of the Haxie Hood, they occur between the villages of Haxie and Westwoodside in North Lincolnshire. This local nature to the games enables people to celebrate local traditions and allows survival of these games as they bring both local pride and interest in the local area. This characteristic is similar to isolated, but both would score you a mark in an exam, and therefore it is important that you classify both as different characteristics. Ethnic sports and games also continue to survive due to the festival and ritual nature of the activity which occurs. Each ethnic sport and game has traditions which are associated with feast and festival occasions from the early medieval period. In the case of the Haxie Hood, this includes the smoking of the fool, shown in the picture where the fool is stood in front of the crowd. These festival and ritual elements allow games such as the Haxie Hood to continue to survive because they provide an escape from reality for the people of the town and allow them to forget about modern life for a while. This encourages them to participate on a yearly basis where they can relax and throw themselves back into life as it used to be many years ago. The sixth key characteristic of ethnic sports and games is that they are social occasions. Like rowdy, this social element encourages people to participate year on year and therefore allows the game to continue to survive. Many of these games have traditional songs and drinking associated with them. Due to the unique and slightly bizarre nature of some of these ethnic games, tourism is a key feature. The continued survival of games such as the Haxie Hood relies on people from outside the local community travelling in and bringing with them their disposable income. This helps the local economy and allows games to continue to survive. Thus, tourism is a characteristic of ethnic sports and games. The eighth and final characteristic of ethnic sports and games, which helps to explain their survival, is the annual and occasional nature of these events. Unlike more modern sporting events, these ethnic games only occur perhaps once a year on a feast day or a festival day. This ensures interest is maintained and that attendance is high, as opportunities to see it are limited. In the case of the Haxey Hood, it occurred on the 6th of January, which is traditionally the 12th day after Christmas. In addition to ensuring interest, because of the limited amount of time in which the game can be viewed, this one-off nature on a specific day enables everybody to know when the game will be happening and make appropriate arrangements to be there. In conclusion, therefore, there are 8 characteristics of ethnic sports and games. Each of these characteristics helps to explain the reasons why they continue to survive in modern society. If you are able to use these characteristics effectively, you can answer an exam question on this topic. That concludes the topic in 10 minutes for the ethnic sports and games sub-topic.